What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cold Takes from the Land.
Cold Takes from the Land, where you get the coldest takes from the hottest Cleveland sports fans.
Well, buddy, there was a little draft over the weekend.
Yeah, you could say that. A little draft, a big draft. I mean, this is probably the wildest draft I think we've had in our lifetimes, I'd say.
Yes, a very weird draft, and not even just for like the Browns. Just the way the board fell with certain players was interesting. But obviously, there's an elephant in the room that we will address when we get to that pick. But I figured we'd jump on here and talk about each pick individually. So yeah, let's waste no time. But before we get into Mason Graham, we did do what I ultimately did not want to do, and still looking at it now would probably prefer that we didn't do. We traded the number 2 pick to the Jaguars. Now we did get a haul. I will say that.
Yeah, we did. The more I sat on it and the more the draft unfolded, I was kind of more okay with what we were doing, but we'll talk about that and obviously what we got back in return from that.
Yeah, so we traded them the second pick. They gave us the 5th pick as well as their second round pick, as well as a first round pick next year, which to me signaled we were going in a specific direction. But now I'm confused on that direction, and we'll get into that later in the draft. But ultimately, we did pick Mason Graham 5th overall, who, for me, was my number 4 player in the draft. So I love the player. I think he's going to fit in well. But it is ultimately disappointing that you don't end up with Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, at least to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I had texted you like live when we made the pick that I think the Patriots probably hate us for the rest of eternity now because they thought for sure they were going to land either Abdul Carter or Hunter in the draft.
Yeah, there was a genuine possibility that Carter could slip to them. I wasn't so sure about Hunter, but depended on the direction that the Giants went, they could have maybe gotten Carter. But
yeah, they could have.
obviously it didn't go that way. They picked Will Campbell, who I like that pick. He was my number 2 tackle in the draft. But yeah, Mason Graham, it's not a sexy pick because it's a run stuffing nose tackle style interior lineman with good potential as a pass rusher. I mean, he was the best player on Michigan's defense, which was one of the best defenses in college football the last few seasons. He's not like terribly big. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". He played at 315. He weighed in at the combine at a little under 300 pounds, which some people were concerned of, but he said at his introductory press conference that he was on like medical that week, so I think I don't know if that means he was sick or something like that, but he was a little down in weight. He said at the press conference that he was weighing 310, so looks like he'll play around that weight. But yeah, he was an elite run stuffer, causes a lot of havoc in that middle part of the line. He fucking wrecked Ohio State this past season, almost single-handedly in terms of our run game. He does leave a bit on the table as a pass rusher that he could definitely try to develop, but I think it fits well because Mike Hall is a good pass rushing D tackle, and then we brought in Malik Collins, who is also a pass rushing D tackle. So I can envision a lot of 5 down lineman sets with Miles, Hall, Graham in the middle, Collins, and then your pick of Obo or Isaiah McGuire or Joe Tryon on the other side. So I ultimately do like the pick. Did you want to do like grades for every pick, see our differences?
Yeah, we can. As you know from speaking to me on Thursday night draft 1, I wasn't super stoked with the pick, but the more the draft went on, the more I'm okay with it. I think you know me, I'm a big build in the trenches guy, so anytime you take a defensive or offensive lineman, I'm usually all for it.
Right.
Obviously, they're not super flashy. My only concern with this is what you said. If Travis Hunter goes on to be for an example, like a Shohei Ohtani type guy that does play both ways and he plays both ways really well, that would be the only thing where I'm like, damn, that really sucks, especially now that we'll talk about who we acquired later in the draft, that you could have paired him up with his teammate. But
Right.
I think he'll be a solid pick. This is somebody I was reading into it a little bit more too, that it clearly seems like Myles Garrett would like to have right next to him. So
Mm-hmm.
the more I read about that, the more it makes sense. But we'll get into the grades here for the first pick. What did you think?
So now, to me, this grade does factor in the trade. So it does factor in a little bit of the fact that we could have had Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. So for me, I still think it was a good pick, great player. I think he's going to end up being a damn good defensive tackle, which is something we really haven't had since we've had Myles Garrett. And we did get a good haul for the pick, but ultimately, just because that I still have that sour taste of not having one of those two top guys, I'd give it a B+.
Okay, that's fair. I'm sitting at a solid B, I think, right now. I do think he'll be a good player. I don't think this, hopefully, God, not at least. I don't think this is a Phil Taylor from Baylor situation where this is a guy that we had high hopes for and he comes in and is just, you know.
Right.
I think he will be solid. Now we do have to go out and obviously get a guy. I think, like you said, we have good DTs now, stirring up the line, especially since we're bringing back old Jimbo Schwartz and he likes trench play. So it's good to have that guy there, and he's going to be a clear #1 starter, I think, for us.
Yeah.
But I think we got to go out and get a guy now because obviously Obo is a free agent this year, right? Or is it just we're talking about trading him?
No, he's still on the team for this season. This season's his last season.
Is he? Okay. So, I mean, you could roll him out there, but I think we both agree in this point where we like him much more as a rotational piece for a guy. You kind of slide him in whenever you're going to give the #1 guy reps. I think I like him more in that position.
It's
but
looking
I think
like
maybe go out and get a guy on the edge.
Yeah, I would agree. The only problem is like I don't really know who the hell you're gonna get, so I'm assuming unless you re-sign Zadarius Smith, which would seem kind of redundant because he had a kind of poor exit in Cleveland. But it's seeming like they're gonna roll it a little different this year. Whereas instead of trying to get a solidified #2 edge guy, they shirt up the interior, and then it looks like they're gonna rotate a combination of Isaiah McGuire, Obo Okoronkwo, and Joe Tryon, the kid we signed who was in Tampa Bay for the past few years. Which, I mean, that could work out. I mean, I like Isaiah McGuire he's a good run stopper from the edge. He doesn't have a whole lot of pass rushing chops, at least so far. But I don't know. Maybe that'll work out. I guess we'll just have to see. That's why I'm a little disappointed that we didn't come out of this draft with an edge rusher because I thought there was a lot of solid ones in the middle area of the draft. But yeah, overall, good pick, Mason Graham. Great player. I think he'll be a stalwart defensive tackle for 10 years. Great run stuffer. He's not going to put up like crazy numbers, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was a multi-time Pro Bowler, maybe even showed up on an all-pro team once or twice just for how good of a job he'll do on the interior there. Let's just hope. I think our best hope is that he can develop to be an excellent run stuffer and a good pass rusher, because right now I think he's a great run stuffer and like an average pass rusher. So we'll just have to see how his development goes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and it's definitely a void we needed filled with losing Dalvin Tomlinson in this offseason. So it's a guy that, when you look at the guy we picked up, obviously we touched on Collins, and Myles Garrett's good at damn near everything, but it's like we don't really have that guy up the middle anymore that really stuffs the run. So having that'll be nice.
Yeah, we haven't had a top tier defensive tackle since like freaking like I don't know. I might be skipping somebody, but I'm thinking like Shawn Rogers, which was in like 2010.
Yeah, he was solid.
I mean, we had some good guys, but no one.
I was thinking.
Yeah, no one on that level though. But do you want to move into?
I'm hoping the Michigan guy pans out, because that's my other one thing. It seems like anytime we draft a Michigan guy, it doesn't work out well. So we'll see. But we've had a lot of guys, even most recently not DTR, but fucking Donovan Peoples-Jones, who was decent. He had the one decent year with like 800 and some yards.
Yeah, he was almost a 1,000-yard receiver, and then he just flamed out after that.
Yeah, but it seems like Michigan guys, for whatever reason, and this is another shot at Michigan, don't do as well in the pros, outside of, i.e., Tom Brady, or like a fucking, the cornerback from, who the hell was the cornerback that was a Hall of Fame dude?
Woodson?
Yeah, Woodson was an absolute stud, but for the most part, OSU guys seem to do a lot better in the pros, and especially on the Browns, than Michigan guys do.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I won't try to read into that too much. I just want to root for him and hope he does a good job. But let's get into our second round picks. And the first one, another surprising pick. And for me, it's not really the player, it's just the position. Carson Schweshinger, linebacker out of UCLA. And now, again, this is a guy, the player, he's a good player. I was just a little confused on why we went linebacker so early, which is a little odd.
Yep, a little odd and a little concerning, possibly, with JOK. I mean, we know he was just in the practice facilities the other day, but as far as an actual timetable for his return, we have no idea, really.
Right.
I mean, I've heard he could be back at some point earlier in the year. I've heard he could miss the entire year. So
I've
I
heard
have
he
no
could
idea
never play
really what to
football
expect
again,
him.
worst case scenario.
I've heard that as well. So it's like, it's Russian roulette. Like, is he going to play again? Is he going to be back this year? Is he never going to be back? Like, I mean, which would absolutely suck because, as we both know, he's our best linebacker by far, and taking a guy this early kind of makes me think the worst, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what this tells me. I mean, if he does end up being healthy, maybe they just wanted to add another linebacker to really solidify the guys they have there. Which, I mean, I like the player. He's in terms of Carson, he's got good size. He's like 6'3", 240, which you don't see a lot of linebackers that heavy these days. Usually they're a little lighter. But he's really, really good in coverage. He has good instincts. He's pretty solid against the run. He's got a really solid fundamental game, and he produces. He's a good tackler. The only like concerns really is that he's just not like some top tier athlete. He's not particularly fast. He's not like overly strong. He can get out physical by like bigger blockers from what I saw. But he can just be a sound like middle linebacker, which I'm assuming he'd play Mike linebacker. I mean, maybe not. Maybe they try to keep that with JOK if he's healthy, but we'll have to see. Plus, we still have Jordan Hicks on the roster. So, again, I like the player. It's just I thought the position was a little confusing. And honestly, even if JOK is a health concern, like Devin Bush and Jordan Hicks, I think are a solid two linebackers where you can get like an average job out of them when I still think we could have went elsewhere. So, for me, I like the player. The position's a little weird. I don't know if you want to add anything else before we grade it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said there. With a lot of these college guys, too, you've obviously done a lot more research than I have. I saw some of his highlight tape, and I researched a little bit after we picked the guy, but this is also kind of, my grade is going to be going into where we picked him and kind of the situation, like you said. With the guys that were still available, I really would have loved a receiver, like either one of the top guys, or I know the Missouri guy was still available here. I loved him. I was watching some of his highlight tape, and he looks like an absolute beast. So I much would have rathered a position like that. Like you said, we don't have an outstanding linebacker room, especially even with JOK, but it's like we have guys like a Devin Bush that we brought back. We have Jordan Hicks, who's been in the league for a number of years now. Like, we have guys that can play the position. And for a spot on the defense, to be honest, I mean, outside of safety, I would say, like even having elite linebackers like the Ravens do and some other teams, like linebackers just, they're not the number one position on a defense. They're not a cornerback. They're not a elite pass rusher. So it's not like they're as important in that way, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I agree. The linebacking position doesn't have the same level of like top tier importance as it has before, especially in the type of defense that we play. A lot of the focus is on the front four and then the secondary. So I kind of agree with you there. The position pick was a little weird, especially considering other guys on the board. Like, you could have grabbed a receiver. You could have double dipped at running back, really, if you wanted to, because obviously we picked a running back with the next pick. Or you could have even went, if you wanted to go defense. I mean, Mike Green was available. Now, I know he has off-field concerns. There was also Donovan Ezeraku, another edge rusher who I thought would have paired nice with Garrett if you wanted to just make this D-line ridiculous. There was also the safety, Emanwari, I think is how you say his name. He was one of the top safeties in the draft, was still there. So I just felt like there was more important positions you could have got. I do like the player. I think he's going to be a solid middle to upper tier middle linebacker who can just, be sound for you, not in anything spectacular. So overall, I'd give it a B-. I like the player. I just thought the position, picking it this early, a little confusing. Of course, unless if JOK is like a lost cause, and I kind of understand it a little more. Even still, I might have waited.
Yeah, I'm close to you again. I'm going to go a little lower. I'm going to go a C+. Again, kind of same situation. I like the player from what I saw. I just don't like where we took him in the fact that our offense was absolutely horrendous last season. I would have really liked the receiver. Hell, I mean, there were a lot of good O-linemen that were going in the first two rounds.
I didn't say that. We could have picked a tackle.
Good O-lineman. Yeah, I would have liked a tackle. Considering our tackle position, we don't know what we're going to have. We don't have Jed Wills anymore, obviously. Are we going to have DeJuan Jones playing left tackle? Are we going to keep Jack Conklin at right tackle? Are they
That's
either one
what
of
it's
them
looking.
going to stay healthy for the whole year? I mean, we have no idea. So
well, I mean, we addressed Yeah, we addressed the offensive line in terms of this next season, like just fine, because obviously you're going to try out DeWan at left, it seems. You signed Cornelius Lucas, who's a really good swing tackle, who's a good backup. Conklin played well last year and was healthy, so in theory he'll play well again. He's not terribly old. And obviously
you got two guards now. You got Zinter still, who you drafted last year, and you got
which you got to see.
What is it, Tevin Jenkins now?
Yeah, Jenkins is a younger guy who I think might be the Wyatt Teller replacement, honestly. And then of course you have Teller and Batonio, who I think with the change back to more of the zone blocking schemes and the more traditional Stefanski offense, I think they'll play better than they did last year. But the problem is a lot of these guys are still a bit older, and I feel like you want to shore up some of the young talent. Now, again, we could be wrong. Maybe DeWan Jones stays healthy and he's great. Conklin gets a few more seasons out of him. Zach Zinter develops well. And then you have Tevin Jenkins, who's only like 27, who is damn good. He just has injury problems. That's why we got him so damn cheap. So, well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, B minus for me, C plus for you. I can agree with that. Do you have anything else you want to say about Carson before we get into this next pick?
Nope, I think we covered pretty much everything there. Just weird pick. I would have went offense personally, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be a bad player. So we'll get into our next pick here in the second round.
Now, these next two picks, buddy, this is the shit I'm fucking talking about here.
Yeah, this is where the draft started to turn around, in my opinion. The first two picks, I was kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I love Mason Graham as a player. I was just concerned about the guys we missed. And then you take a linebacker, a good linebacker, probably the second or third best linebacker in the draft. But then pick 36, the pick we got from Jacksonville, Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. He was my third favorite back in the class, just behind Genty and Omarion Hampton. I fucking love this pick. I think he's going to fit in great. I don't know if you'll agree with this, but to me, he reminds me a lot of like a Kareem Hunt type player. He's he's a physical runner. He's big. He's got some explosiveness to him. He's got a good balance to his game. He's got some elusiveness. He's got some power. He's got a good stiff arm. He's got he's got really, really good vision. I think that was one of the things about TreVeyon Henderson that wasn't quite as good as his vision isn't quite up there with Judkins, but. I don't know. I fucking love this pick. I think he's a bell cow back. He can be your every down back. I love it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I love. If we were gonna take one of the two, I was leaning Judkins as well, just because, like you said, I think he can really be that workhorse back for us. And with Nick Chubb, obviously we don't know if he's going to be on the team or not. I mean, after this draft, it's looking like he might not be. I mean, I know Andrew Berry said that doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to re-sign Chubb, but Quinshon Judkins, OSU boy, we've both watched him probably quite a bit more than anybody else on this list, I'd say. I think he has a ton of potential to be our guy for the next 7-8 years, as running backs tend to have a shorter shelf life in their prime, obviously, as other positions on the offense, but I think he can be a damn good back for us. I think hopefully he can stay healthy for the majority of his career, and I think pairing him with the guy we took later in this draft, I'm very interested to see how this running back room shakes out now.
Yeah, I love Judkins. Like we already said, bell cow back, tough runner, very physical, has some elusiveness to him. He's not like a top tier athlete, but he still ran I think like a 4.4, maybe low 4.5 40. So he's not slow. He's got some
spin move in college football 25.
That is true. He was Mr. Spin Move in CFB 25. So all I'm saying, Madden 26, this dude's spin move better be like 112. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, dude.
But
and my one buddy too, after the draft, he sent all of our picks. He sent their college football 25 rating. He's like, man, this is how this works, right? Their ratings from the game translates over, and they were all like mid 90s plus.
Yeah, I fucking wish that would happen. But you never know. Maybe he could get there. But yeah, I love Judkins. I don't really have a whole much else to say. To me, this is an easy A. We needed a running back, and to me, he was the third best in the class, and we got him in the early second round. So this is perfect.
Yeah, love Judkins. I'm going to give him the A as well.
Yeah.
And this next pick is my most interesting in the draft, so I want to hear what you say about
Yeah, I love this next pick too. It was a little earlier than I thought, but because some of the tight ends were going a little faster, I get why we took them a little quicker. Harold Fainin Jr. in the third round, pick 67. I love this pick too. He was a guy that was heavily mocked to the Browns, more at the 94 slot than 67, but either way, he was one of the best tight ends in the class. He led the entire nation of college football, I believe, in receiving yards. And a lot of people like to point to the fact, oh, he played at Bowling Green. Fuck that. He played Penn State, and he played, I believe it was Texas A&M. Two damn good defenses, especially Penn State, and he torched both of them. Obviously, Bowling Green got their ass kicked, but
yards both times.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's only 20 years old. He's super young. He's a little undersized. He's only about 6'3", which is a bit short for a tight end. And he's not like an uber burner athlete for his size at tight end, but he just produces. He's got good hands. He's not a great blocker, but he's an active blocker, so I think that's something you can improve on. So I think pairing him with Njoku with a lot of the double tight end sets, I think that unlocks something that we've really never had with Stefanski, because we always had Njoku, or early in Stefanski's tenure, they had Austin Hooper before Njoku really broke out. But we've never had like two really solid like vertical threat tight ends, which I think this is going to be really interesting to watch. I'm a big fan of Harold Fanden Jr.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan as well, and I knew a little bit about the guy, but just seeing like some of his overall stats and what he did against some of the better teams that were on Bowling Green's schedule, like you touched on, it just kind of really blew me away. I mean, the fact that he had freaking well over 2,000 some odd yards in his couple years at Bowling Green. He had the 1550 last year with I think like 12 receiving touchdowns, which is insane. And I'm like, man, this guy, I think he's going to pair perfectly, like you said, with Njoku. I think with Flacco too. And Kevin Stefanski running the two tight end sets, hopefully, like you said, he's not a great blocker, but hopefully he can kind of get there to the point where if we're doing a lot of these same run schemes with the Judkins or with a Chubb or whoever we have, Jerome Ford back there, we can get some good yardage and kind of get back to what we do best, because that's what we did a couple years ago when we made the playoffs. And I think having this guy, he's definitely a big step up, in my opinion, from a Harrison Bryant, or even a guy I liked a lot in Akins. I think he has a lot more potential there to do stuff in the passing game. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has. I think best case scenario, he could turn into a top 15, maybe even top 10 receiving tight end in the league if all development goes well. Because again, he's so young. He's only 20 years old, and he's going to learn from Njoku, who's been here forever and went through a lot of ups and downs through his career. So yeah, love the pick. I'm giving it an easy A. Another great pick for me.
I'm giving it an A+, our first A+ of the draft.
A+, I like it. All right. Now, this next pick,
the not so fun pick,
was even more confusing now, considering what happened a couple picks later. But I will just get into it individually. So, 94 pick in the third round, we took Dillon Gabriel. Now, you guys who are watching, you saw I did my own top 10 quarterbacks video. I'm a quarterback guy. I love the quarterbacks. He was my 8th ranked quarterback, and I think we took him, I think he was the 5th one off the board, 4th or 5th. So for me, it was a little early. I graded him
4th, if I remember right.
Yeah, maybe 4th. I graded him as a 5th round prospect. Now, I'm well aware that quarterbacks always go earlier than expected, aside from one guy. But so I understood that he could get overdrafted. All these quarterbacks basically did. So, but to me, I would have been happy if we got him in the 4th round at that pick 126 spot, maybe. But to pick him in the top 100 was just a little confusing, considering you made a trade to acquire a first-round pick next year from Jacksonville, who could be a not great team again, which is what you're hoping for. And to me, that signaled, okay, we're loading up on ammunition to grab the best quarterback available next year in a class that's supposed to be significantly better. So to me, I still thought, okay, maybe 4th, 5th round, we're probably still going to grab a quarterback. Now, you know me, I liked Kyle McCord or maybe even Will Howard. I don't dislike Dillon Gabriel as a prospect, but to me, to pick him at 94, when there were guys still on the board, there were other running backs on the board. Now, obviously, we picked one later. There were still some tackles on the board. There were still safeties on the board I liked. There were still receivers on the board, specifically Elik Eomanor out of Stanford, who we fucking passed on like 4 times. Which blows my mind. Now, that's just a me thing. I just really like him. I just view this as a waste of a pick, and that's not even including the next the pick we make a couple rounds later. Now, as a prospect, I'll let you get your spiel before I get into him personally as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to echo. I think a lot of Browns fans feel the same way. A very odd pick considering why are you taking him in the 3rd round? Like you said, I think we could have gotten him especially with the way that only a few quarterbacks. I mean, in the first round, you really only had the Giants trade back in to take a Jackson Dart, and then you had obviously Cam Ward go. I mean, the quarterbacks, like you said, it's not a strong class. They're not flying really off the board. I don't think anybody was going to take this guy third round. He might have not went fourth round, but very odd pick for the timing, and just for considering the people, like you said, that were on the board. We could have taken the Stanford wide receiver. There were a couple other really good players that were still on the board, and guys that can come in day one and be a rotational or starting piece either on the defense or the offense for us. And the fact that we're taking a guy that, granted, now that we know the draft is fully done and who we took in a couple rounds that we'll talk about, we already have Joe Flacco. We brought in a Kenny Pickett. Deshaun's still on the roster until we can cut him.
Right.
It's like one of these quarterbacks isn't going to make the damn roster. And the fact that we took this guy who I don't think, I mean, he's fine. I mean, he kind of reminds me of, and my buddy at work said this too, he kind of reminds me of like a left-handed Colt McCoy kind of thing, you know? Where I'm like, I think he's decent, but I'm like, just thinking of like everything he does. His deep ball looked really good. Other than that, I don't think he does a lot. He is undersized. What is he? I think they said he's 5'11".
He's 5'10", 5'11".
So he's
Small.
a guy shorter than I am. And I'm like, not saying that small quarterbacks can't do well. We've obviously seen guys like a Breeze and all them come in, Russell Wilson come in and do very well. But that's with, again, Hall of Fame coaches. You have great defenses and players around you, which I don't know if our roster's at that level yet. It's just a very odd pick, in my opinion, for a guy that he's not going to come in and change your world immediately. So why are we wasting a pick on him when we could take a guy that can come in and really help the offense? You could bolster your receiver room. Or again, you could take a depth piece for the offensive line, which with our injury history, like we said, Tevin Jenkins, Jack Conklin, DeJuan Jones last year, like we have a lot of guys that are in and out of this lineup. So why aren't we bolstering these positions? Just a very odd pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a weird pick. Now, in terms of the player, he was my QB8. I gave him a 5th round grade. Now, in terms of the fit, he actually fits really well with like the type of offense Stefanski likes to run, that Shanahan style, heavy play action. He's undersized. He's a good athlete. He can run a bit. And he has a better arm than you'd think for someone that small. Still not a very great arm, but you know, he could throw a deep ball. He's very accurate in the short intermediate game, makes good decisions. He's produced a bunch of numbers in college, and he's very, very experienced. And I feel like he can come in. To me, he reminded me a lot of like, take Case Keenum, but just put a better athlete inside of Case Keenum, which I think he's going to be a high-level backup for 5 to 10 years. He'll probably get a couple chances to start later down in his career just because he has a lot of polish. He's sound. I don't think he'll throw a lot of interceptions, which is great. I mean, best case scenario, he's a really good backup that we keep for a while, and maybe he looks good enough that we trade him for like a 5th round pick sometime. You're like, hey, you get a mid-round pick out of a guy that didn't have to start for you or anything like that. So that'd be great. But the problem is you picked him at 94. Now, it's just a waste of a pick.
And again, we're not going to be having 4 quarterbacks on this roster. So do you move on from, like you said, do you trade him for a 5th round pick? Do you trade a Kenny Pickett for a pick? I mean,
yeah, this makes the Kenny Pickett acquisition real weird.
If you have to cut either one of them, neither one of them are going to make it through to our practice squad. Somebody's going to take them. So it's like, what do you might as well trade one of them and get something, because either Dylan Gabriel or Kenny Pickett, like I said, they're not going to make it through to our practice squad. So
right, yeah, it's just a weird one. I don't completely hate the player. I just think he was a reach, and considering other needs we had, and then considering what happened in the rest of the draft,
I think you could have got him 28 picks later where we took our next guy at, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I said if we picked him at 126, to me, I would have said, okay, it's a little early, but, you know, mid-4th round, you try to get a guy who can be a backup. It's the same philosophy as when they picked DTR. They picked him, they're like, hey, this guy, we can develop him, he can be a high-level backup. Obviously, it didn't work out with DTR. I think Gabriel's a better prospect than DTR by a decent margin.
Yeah,
but
he got a better arm, for sure.
Again, just to pick him in the top 100 was just confusing. So for me, this is a D+. I don't hate the player, and like he can contribute in a backup role. Maybe he has to start sometime down the line, and I feel like he could play all right, but it's just so early.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a D. Again, a little lower than you are, just because there were still difference makers, in my opinion, that you could have added to the team. And again, quarterback is the one position where it's like you can only trot one of them out at any given time. It's not like receiver where you can throw 3 or 4 of them out on the field at any given time. So the fact that, one, he's not going to be our starter, at least hopefully not anytime soon. It's just an odd pick to make in the top 3 rounds when you could be picking guys that can make a difference immediately.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move in to the next pick, which, all right, we're back on track here with this next pick. I always said, I don't know if I said it in a video, but I've been saying since January, this running back class, I want to take 2. I don't care if we re-sign Nick Chubb. I don't care if we keep Jerome Ford. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I don't care. We got to pick 2. This running back class is so deep. And thank God we did that. Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, to me, he pairs beautifully with Quinshad Judkins. He can play a similar role to kind of like how Travion Henderson did at Ohio State. Obviously not at that level, but this is your home run hitter. He's not a bell cow. He's a little bit smaller, but he's explosive. He's fast, and he's got really good one-cut ability where you can bring him in on a 2nd and 5 and run a draw, and he just explodes through the line and get you a 20, 30, 40, maybe 50, 60-yard touchdown chunk because of his explosiveness. And he does run really hard. And so I think he pairs really well with Judkins, so I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, no, I do too, man. It really feels like we're trying to recreate the whole dual back thing that we had going with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Like you said, this is the guy that, i.e. a Jerome Ford, but I think he'll be a little bit better than Ford was, where he can come in and he has that home run ability, like you said, to where he can break one for 30, 40, 50 yards for a touchdown if need be. So I really like taking this guy and pairing him with Quinshad Judkins. And obviously, we played Tennessee this year, and I've seen a little bit of the Tennessee just considering how good they were the last couple seasons. So,
yeah,
really solid back here, in my opinion. And to get him in the 4th round, I think was a damn good move. So, I'm going to give him a B+.
Yeah, I really like the pick. I don't think he was the best running back available. There were a couple other guys I had above him, but I think he's the best fit with Judkins just because he's so explosive. He's really fast. Judkins can be the, now this is in theory. We don't have Nick Chubb. Judkins can be the every down traditional bell cow, and then you bring in Dylan Sampson to be that change of pace guy. Give him 5 to 12 carries a game. Maybe if we're really heavy on the run game, he can be Quinshad gets 20, Dylan gets 10. My only gripe is he's really not a great receiver, which is that might be the role that Jerome Ford still plays if we don't re-sign Nick Chubb, is he can just go out and catch passes out of the backfield. But we'll have to see how that goes. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Chubb. But yeah, I really like this pick. I'm going to give this one an A-, just because I like it. I don't love it quite like Fannin or Judkins, just because I do think there were a couple better running backs, but I think he fits really well and he's explosive. So yeah, A- for me with this pick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the fit here is kind of everything with who we took earlier, and possibly, like we said, maybe bringing Nick Chubb back. I think he does fit more than like a Scadaboo or somebody like that would, who I think is obviously a better prospect, but I think the fit of him with Quinshad Judkins just works overall better than some of those other guys would.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think he fits well. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
now this is the fun one, our last pick of the draft.
Yeah, so I'm going to...
Also, I want to ask you really quick. I thought, so on Thursday, didn't we make a trade to get 2 5th-round picks?
Oh, no, we traded away our 5th and 2 6ths, and then we got a higher 5th-round pick from the Texans, I believe.
I saw on the graphic, I thought for some reason we had a 2nd, 5th-round pick. So, like, after we took this guy, I was waiting. I'm like, oh, we still got 1 pick left.
No.
Oh, fuck. I'm like, I thought we had another pick.
No, so we had 2 picks left in the draft. We had our 5th-round pick, and then, which was like a mid-5th-round pick, and then we
traded up to move up a bit, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so, and then we had a 6th-round pick, and we traded those 2 picks to, I can't remember, I think it was Seattle we traded with, moved up to 144, which was like the 5th or 6th pick in the 5th round, and we did take Shedeur Sanders, who was having a monumental drop that I understood why he dropped. I don't think it warranted this far of a drop. Now...
Yeah, especially for your number 1 ranked quarterback. I mean, I think a lot of people had him ranked number 1 in this draft class. I had him, I'd probably say 1 or 2, but to fall to the 5th
more people
wild.
had him 2. Most people had Ward 1,
yep.
which I understood. But Shedeur personally, now my rankings did kind of factor into like Cleveland specifically, so he was my number 1 quarterback. I have a really long spiel I want to say about this pick, and which will kind of encapsulate my thought on the draft in general. So I'll let you say your piece first.
Yeah, and I already talked with Draven, obviously, off the air about this a bit, but I love this pick, especially I'm a big value guy. As you guys will get to know me more and listen to this podcast, you'll find that out. But getting him in the 5th round at pick 144, I think I'm gonna give him, I'll say an A minus. I'm not gonna give him an A plus because of some of the stuff that I'm sure Draven will mention with just the reasons why he possibly fell. And a lot of the stuff, I know his pre-draft meetings and interviews with some teams weren't the best. He rubbed some people the wrong way. They had that one executive kind of come out and absolutely sandbag the hell out of him fucking Wednesday night before the draft on Thursday, basically saying
So
everything he could about him. He basically said he ain't shit but hoes and tricks is all he said.
So
Just
that
in a
report
paragraph form.
got debunked. It was actually an AI generated report. Someone got banned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. I was gonna say because I read that I'm like, there's no way in hell that somebody said like he did basically said he ain't shit, and with like he basically just ragged on him like crazy. But obviously, a reason why he fell is some guys were worried about, i.e., a Odell Beckham situation with his father Deion Sanders possibly causing some ruckus around the league. I don't think Shador is a bad kid. I will just say that. Obviously, he comes with some worries and some possible baggage. But taking him in the 5th round, I think, is a pretty foolproof move. It's a move that if he doesn't work out and he ends up sucking, we can cut him for pennies on the dollar. But taking him in the 5th round at pick 144, I'll give it an A minus. Would be an A plus just for value situation, but I think he could be a damn good quarterback. And we still are geared up next year with 2 first-round picks. Granted, if Joe Flacco plays all year and he plays great and we can make a decent run, great. And let Shador kind of sit and let Dylan Gabriel sit and see what they can do. But I think for the value here, it's got to be an A minus in my opinion. And I do think he'll come in. I think he'll work hard. I mean, just knowing his father, and he seems, again, like a very good kid. It's not a kid like a Johnny Manziel, a guy that we took in the first round, which is a huge reach. He has potential. I think he's a good kid. I don't think he's going to come in and not work hard. I don't think he's going to be a guy that doesn't watch film like fucking Johnny Manziel did.
Right. No.
I don't think this is I don't think this is a situation of a guy like a Sean Kaiser or anybody like that either. I think he'll be solid. So I'm going to give this pick an A minus.
Okay. So first, quickly, I'm just going to debunk this whole off-field bullshit. I think the whole off-field concerns is just heavily overblown. Will Deion get involved a little bit? Will he say some stuff in the media? Absolutely. Does the kid have a little bit of a prima donna attitude to him? Yes. But I don't think it's some big concern. I think, like you said, he's a good kid. He's going to work hard. So, yeah, I'm not worried about the off-field stuff. And again, when you look at this pick in a vacuum, great value, 5th round. You get my personal number 1 quarterback on the board. For most people, he was number 2. Maybe if you had him 3 below Jackson Dart. Great value. To me, I always said his floor, worst case scenario, I felt like he could still be a top 25 to 20 starter who in the league, and best case scenario he could be something like almost like a Jared Goff is for Detroit, where he can be like top 10, top 15 quarterback. We'll have some seasons where he puts up like top 5 numbers. I think he can be efficient. He won't turn the ball over a ton. He's a playmaker. He's got a good arm. I think his processor reading defenses is relatively solid. He's pretty accurate. He has some issues, of course, like he doesn't have a crazy high ceiling because he's not like a super physical, traitsy guy. He doesn't have like a rocket arm. I listed all my thoughts about him in the video. So in a vacuum, great pick. You A++ 1,000. You would think this is great. Here's my problem. So one, obviously the easy one to point out is obviously you just picked Dylan Gabriel 2 picks ago. So makes that fucking confusing. And then on top of this, you traded up for him, got rid of our last 2 picks, which again, you didn't pick a receiver, you didn't pick a tackle, you didn't pick a safety. There were positions of need that were left on the board where there were damn good players still there. So to me, this reeks of Jimmy Haslam involvement. Now again, I like the player, I like Shador Sanders, but here's my issue. Going into this draft, you saw it right away when we traded out of 2. There was a clear plan in place to me. Now, again, I could be completely wrong, but this is just how I feel. There was a clear plan in place that they are punting on quarterback until next year because next year's class is projected to be fucking awesome. and you loaded up the ammunition where either you have 2 top picks or you have 2 middling picks in the first round that you could use to package to move up to get your guy next year. And I thought that made sense. Now you've picked Shedeur Sanders, and I don't think he's going to be bad. I think he's going to be fine. I feel like with this current semblance of talent, I think he'll play above average. I think he'll play well. He's going to fucking play. Even if you start Joe Flacco, he's going to play. He's absolutely going to play. And he's going to come in, and he's going to play good enough where I know Haslam will look at Barry and Stefanski and be like, do not pick a quarterback next year. Sanders is our guy. So now you missed out on Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter.
Mm-hmm.
And now with that trade you made next year, you will be pressured to not take a quarterback that this team has viewed as their guy, because this team has said that they do drafts in groups. They scout by 2 years. So that means next year they probably already have their eyes on a couple guys that they like. So now they're going to be pressured to not commit to that initial plan that they made because of Haslam's involvement. And I think what's going to happen is now the front office is going to be tumultuous, and they're going to be forced to stay with Sanders. Now, I hope best case scenario works out, but I think the likely scenario is he's going to play above average football, not good enough to win you anything of significance, and you're going to be stuck in purgatory because Jimmy fucking Haslam won't keep his hands off this franchise. Now, again, I like Sanders. He was my number 1 quarterback, but I clearly stated none of these quarterbacks I thought are stars, like superstar level players. Now, Shedeur's a star level personality, but I can just see it. There's going to be so much noise from the fans around Sanders. People are going to be excited. They're going to want him to play. He's going to play, and I think he'll play fine. I think we'll win 7 to 9 games next year. We'll just miss the playoffs. And now, obviously, this could work out, and we build this incredible team around Shedeur and do some kind of like what Philly did, where they have a top 10 level quarterback, not a top tier quarterback, and you win Super Bowls. I pray that's what happens, but I just have this gut feeling that he's going to be fine, but not good enough to win you anything of significance. And I think it's going to make us stuck. I could see guys getting fired because of the potential heat that's going to be within that front office, because there's going to be a rift between Stefanski and Barry and Haslam. And I'm not even the biggest Andrew Barry guy, but to me, if you have him as your guy and you have this plan, let them fucking execute the plan. And to me, this is going to deviate from it. It's going to be confusing. We're going to have this QB battle that's pointless because Shedeur's going to play no matter what. Gabriel's not going to get the job because Haslam is going to pressure them into playing Shedeur because that's who they traded up for. So now you wasted a 3rd round pick on a quarterback who was already a reach of a pick. You left good positions on the board. And again, I love Mason Graham, but now you've also left out the possibility of having Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. And now you have this extra 1st round pick, and I feel like there's going to be a void of a plan now on how to build this team moving forward because of ownership getting involved. And I'm so tired of this, and it's going to end in disappointment and people getting fired. And all the fans are going to be fucking crushed when that shit happens. Everyone's excited now, and I'm hopeful I'm wrong. This is complete just gut feeling. I have nothing really to put forth of this other than how I feel. I just have a bad sinking feeling in me about this. Now, again, on paper, I like Shedeur. I hope he works out. If he's as good as I think he could be, I think maybe it will work out. You get a Jared Goff level guy, you build this great team around him, you're a perennial contender for the next 5-10 years. That'd be great. But I just don't trust that to happen just because I have no trust with this team in general and this ownership. So that's just how I feel.
Yeah. And I agree with, I'd say like 99.9% of what you said. I definitely think Jimmy Haslam did get involved in this. I mean, it's pretty obvious just from it reading people's body language and like their reactions and everything. I don't think they were bummed to get Shedeur. I think Andrew Barry's facials and they were more so like, oh man, this guy's kind of fucking putting his hand in the cookie jar again and doing something that we don't necessarily want to do. So I understand what you're saying there. The only reason I am okay with it is because I think coming off of our season last year, I think this is the final year anyway. So I think whether they're going to be ass or great, like if they're great, cool, then we keep Stefanski and Barry. But I think, like you said, the higher likelihood is that something does happen and it's going to result in people getting fired, which I honestly think was going to happen anyway. I think if we come in and we're booty, I think probably Barry's definitely gone, and there's a good chance Stefanski's gone as well. But my thinking is take as many fucking bites at the apple as you can. I mean, and I get Shedeur has more baggage and more. He's coming. It's almost like, again, an Odell Beckham situation. He has his father who keeps fucking throwing shit out there, and it's like Cleveland Browns are not the best in regards to handling all this outside pressure of asking, even when Joe Flacco is playing, what's going on with Shedeur? What's going on with this? Like, we don't have a great track record with that in our history, especially as Browns fans and just watching this team from afar, how they handled the whole Baker situation when Baker started to kind of throw Stefanski under the bus a little bit, and just the shit we've done over the years. Like, not great track record, obviously. And making this pick is a very Cleveland Browns pick. But in my opinion, with how fucking horrendous our quarterback situation has been outside of Baker Mayfield for the last 26 years now since we've come back and got the team back, I'm very much of the opinion, take as many stabs at it as you can. So getting Shedeur, in my opinion, was a good move. And
I
the only
completely
thing
get that.
I would say that I don't agree with you on there is I'm not certain that he will play. I think Flacco, if we're decent to like, okay, I don't think Flacco, I will say this, I don't think he's going to be as great as he was in 2023. I mean, that was kind of a lightning in the bottle season where he came in halfway through the year and propelled us to the playoffs. I think he will be good though, and I think he'll be decent enough to where it's like, okay, he's got Stefanski back. He's going to have two solid tight ends in my opinion now. He's got a little bit of a running game again. Hopefully the O-line is better than it was then, and I think he'll be good enough to where it's like, okay, we're winning games. I don't know if Shedeur will play. That's the one thing I'll say that I disagree with you on. I'm not sure that he's going to be playing any games.
I think it's a guarantee he plays based on two things. One, either Flacco starts off the season well. I could very much see him starting off fine, and then things unravel. He throws a lot of picks, and then the pressure of playing Shedeur kicks in. I think the more likely scenario is the fact of Joe Flacco hasn't played a full season of football since 2017. He's not been a full starter in 8 years. I just don't trust his ability to make it through a year, whether it's performance or injury, because he is 40 years old. So that's why I just think it's a guarantee that Shedeur plays. Now, again, I'm going to root for these guys. I'm going to root for Shedeur. And again, I wouldn't feel this way if I felt like this is what the front office, the direction they wanted to go. But to me, it just screams that they had a plan in mind and it got deviated from. Now, again, it could work out. This could be the one time where Jimmy Haslam is fucking right and Shedeur plays even better than I think he could, and it works out. I'm praying that's the case, and I think he'll play fine. I think he'll play efficient. It won't be anything flashy. I think he'll get a few big plays here and there. I think best case it's similar to something like a Jared Goff, Dak Prescott style guy, which when you say that to a Cleveland fan, they're like, oh, that's fucking great, which that sounds great, but it's just, I just think it's just the little things that just bother me. Now, again, from this video forward, I'm going to root for him. I'm going to root it goes well. It's apparently going to be an open competition. I think Kenny Pickett's going to get cut, personally, because, I mean, Gabriel, I think, is a better prospect than Pickett. Shedeur, I think, right now is clearly better than Pickett, and I think Flacco's obviously better than Pickett. And I don't know, I think the entire city of Cleveland will get set on fire if Kenny Pickett starts any games next year, unless it's via injury. So, but again, that's just my spiel. In terms of how I feel about the draft as a whole, I like a majority of the picks. There were some reaches, there were a couple confusing picks as we got into, but overall, the Shedeur Sanders pick, I'll just give it a B, just because I'm going to mix it with great value. That's an A+, but to me, I also just have those things looming in the back of my head. So as an overall whole, I generally liked the draft. Again, I'm concerned about the lack of getting a receiver, any offensive lineman, or grabbing a safety or another edge rusher. So I think there was some stuff left on the table, and I'm a little disappointed that we only ended up making 7 picks when I think we started with like 11. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to root for all these guys. Overall, I think I'd give the draft as a whole I'd say a B-. That's how I feel. I'll say a B. I'll say a flat B, just because there were a couple picks I really did love.
I will overall go the same grade as a B. And just to touch on the Shedeur thing one last time, I do think I'm holding out hope. Best case scenario. I mean, we're modeling our kind of off season, kind of like the Broncos did, where if you get the quarterback or get competent play, you can be right there in fringe playoff contention. So I think best case scenario, we do kind of do what the Broncos did with Joe Flacco and slide or slip into the playoffs, or maybe just miss out. But the things are looking up and looking a lot better than a 3-14 season. And the more I'm thinking about it, like if I'm Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, obviously Shedeur is going to be on the roster. I'm not completely sold that he's going to play like you are, but I mean, debating on what we do with Gabriel and Pickett, you think we're going to cut Pickett, which we could do. I don't think Pickett's a bad backup. I'm not the biggest Pickett fan, obviously, but I'm like, I would almost come in knowing that Joe Flacco, they say it's going to be an open competition. I don't think there's fucking much of a chance at all that Shedeur or somebody comes in and is the starter week 1. But I would almost come in and be like, hey, listen, Shadeur's here. He's learning. He's improving. Like when they're getting questions in the media from him asking what's going on with him, what's he doing, I'd be like, yeah, he's here. He's learning. Obviously, Joe Flacco's a seasoned veteran. Kenny Pickett's been in a few playoff games. He's been with the Steelers. I would almost go Flacco as your number 1 starter. I would put Shedeur third on the depth chart. Like I would put him as a solid third and be like, listen, he's a young kid. He's here to learn. He's doing his thing. I'm like, we have a seasoned veteran, Kenny Pickett, that's backing up Flacco, and Flacco is obviously, he did what he did in 2023. I honestly think that's the best way to move forward with this whole situation.
Yeah, I just don't see it going that way. I mean, I just don't, because obviously you're not going to cut Shedeur because he's
unless
Shedeur,
you're awful. I mean, if you're awful, then Shadeur's going to play. Like it's just kind of like it is with an NFL team. Like if we're horrendous, if we're sitting at fucking 2-9 through 11 weeks or 12 weeks, like he's probably going to play. And in that scenario, I'm fine with it. But with the talent we have and the guys we just picked up, I really don't think we're going to be that bad, to be honest with you.
I don't either. I think we'll be competitive, but.
Which, if we can, I think Flacco will finish the season if he's healthy, hopefully. If we can get competent O-line play. That's why I'm not as down on this pick as you are.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I'm short on time, so I don't have a whole lot more time to ramble, so I'll get us on out of here. I think I got my thoughts out of there pretty well.
It'll be an interesting season, buddy. We'll say that much. Hopefully we have Hard Knocks again.
God. Anyway, we appreciate you guys for listening. That's our thoughts on the draft. It was a long draft process. It was very interesting to see how it went, and we ultimately did end up with Shedeur Sanders, as well as some other guys that I like, some picks that we weren't as fond of. But we'll see how it goes. We're going to root for all these guys. But yeah, once again, we appreciate you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed my rant at the end there. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Gold takes him to land.